Hey, everybody. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry about that. YouTube was giving me a bit of a hiccup, and here we are. Sorry about that. No cool intro today, just straight into it. Welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Derek Melinda, and you have found your way to the Knights of Last Call live stream. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone is doing well tonight, and doing well this evening. Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and we are looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm not quite ready. I'm not quite ready to RPG, but we're ready. We're ready now. So hopefully everybody is doing great. Glad to have you here. So as you know, this is our continuing live stream to take a look at all the archetypes, and turns out there's a lot of them. We've been going a little bit slower than I would have originally expected to, but you know, that's the way this goes, right? But I mean, luckily, thankfully, incredibly, the chat has continued to be extremely supportive of this endeavor. You all have been very, very, very gracious and very, very, very giving with your tips, which has enabled me and allowed me to continue this program, which is great, which is what's going to allow us to keep this thing going and make it a good choice for the channel. I think I think we're part of something here, right? You're part of something here as we kind of have these conversations, because we just saw this past week that Nonat, sort of the king of Pathfinder 2 YouTube content, said that he's going to be winding back some of his Pathfinder 2 content to focus on some other things that he's a little bit more interested in, and maybe will give him some better growth. But one of the casualties of this sort of decision or this change was that he is going to not finish his Archetypes video series. I think he only made it through 3 of them. And, so this becomes, I think, I don't begrudge him that, right? These series are long and they're hard, and God knows that the spells one took us, almost something like 100 hours or something, 90 hours of content to get through. And that's a lot. But I do think it's nice that this exists out on the internet, that people in, years to come can at least have this conversation. You may not agree with some of the decisions and final things, but you got to appreciate, or you at least got to respect
$10.
the
Sorry,
conversation.
I'm late. Was busy playing in my 4E campaign. Man, that game is good. It is crazy how you can make all these tactical and fun choices.
Oh boy.
I should make a game like that.
Jason B, thank you very much for the $10 tip. Jason B was apparently busy playing 4th edition. It's a cool edition. Actually, we've been talking about some of our old there we go. We've been talking about some of our old 4th edition campaigns. I actually have a bunch of our 4th edition characters here. These are from like 2000. This is about 10 years ago, actually, probably like 2010, 2011. So yeah, maybe actually longer than that. 4th edition, you went all the way to 30th level. My God, can you imagine? And it wasn't like they were shortened levels. You still needed to fight like a million things. So that's a lot of play to get all the way to the top. Frosty, showing his love, showing his support. Hello, Frosty. Glad to have you here. Pillsbury, nice to see you. Welcome, everyone. Damien, I have no idea what you're talking about. Jason B. Yeah, I mean, he's never said that he's Jason Bullman, but from his insights into the game, his unique perspective, his he's not been really, I got to admit, he's not been very subtle. Sometimes he lets it slip. He talks about designing Pathfinder 2. So I always just assumed that Jason B was Jason Bullman. Look, we hang out with Mark Seifter and stuff like that, We're hip. I like that Jason Bullman's probably hanging out with us. So, it's Jason. Anyway. Anyways, thank you for the support. That's what allows us to continue doing this channel, and especially these series. In some ways, the support we get through your tips, your donations, the amount of views that we get, how many people like and subscribe, is your way of telling us, hey, we want to see more of this content. So appreciate it. And yeah, let's maybe get into it, huh? Okay, so here we have here we have everything that we have so far. If you've missed some of our prior videos, we've gone over several times how we sort of break down our classifications, but very quickly, an F, while functional, is, in my opinion, fundamentally flawed and has major mechanical issues, balance issues, power issues to really be in the same competitive space as anything above it. A D is operative, but underwhelming. It's, doesn't have enough oomph, doesn't probably impact your character or the game enough, or in the case of these archetypes, does not create a strong enough theme or feel to really warrant that better grade. A C is totally average, satisfactory. It's not, it's gonna do the job. It's gonna do what it says on the tin, and I think it's a fine baseline. B's and A's are just elevations of that. B's start to become very exciting. I think they have something very unique or clever in the design that really makes them pop. The mechanics strongly cleave to the flavor of the archetype, and the archetype itself has a good array of feats that really allow you to mechanically express your character in a interesting and, yes, powerful way. An A is simply probably the best example of design. It is fun and compelling without being overpowered. An S tier represents something that's probably too good. And it probably has, just oozing with mechanical power that makes it probably prone to abuse. I should note that in the S tier of the flavor, I think that just means it really, really hit it out of the park, almost to the point of almost being like so specific and so incredible that it maybe doesn't even feel appropriate in most campaigns, but still probably a pretty cool, awesome, fun thing, just maybe not for everything and everyone. And so that's where we're at. And last time we made it through the letter D. So we've been through all these artillerists, butterfly, blades, cavaliers, celebrities, corpse tenders. That's a weird one. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. And now we are into the Ds. So our first D today is the dandy. You are a genteel master of style, culture, and decorum. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're in the E's. Oh, my God. All right. Edgewatch detective. All right. All right, Edgewatch detective. You need Int 14 or Wisdom 14. Was that a shotgun mic archetype? Yes. Yes, it was, Frosty. We are trying out, in preparation for our new studio, which is underway. You may have seen that on our shorts. But in our new studio, I want to use shotgun microphones to keep the shots clear, to keep the microphones out of people's faces and out of the shots. And so I bought this microphone, just trying it out, getting a feel for it, and seeing if we like it. Definitely has a different tone than the Shure SM7B, but I think it has a little bit of a natural sort of roominess, and I don't mind it. We're still working on some of the compression and EQ, but overall, I think it's been a good win. Now, will it work up at the studio? That remains to be seen. All right, so we've got the Edgewatch detective. Now, this is obviously from the Agents of Edgewatch adventure path. So, there's going to be some possible light spoilers here, but, and traditionally we have sort of been saying, or at least been feeling like these have been kind of in the flavor department. So we'll sort of lean towards that. So you are a guard in Absalom. So this is probably one of those ones that you're not going to take outside of Agents of Edgewatch. You get training in society and thievery, and you do not get expert. And you can use your perception instead of survival to track, and you get skill feat. So this is pretty middle of the road when it comes to dedication feats. Using perception instead of survival to track feels kind of cool, appropriate for a urban campaign. So I do like that. We were just talking about alignment. Austin says, "What's up, homies? Taking a thermo midterm, and so won't be active, but I wanted to voice my support." Well, awesome. May your entropy and enthalpy be in good order. So Edgewatch agents can sense alignment. With 3 actions, they can they can make a secret perception check against the target's deception DC, and if they crit, they know their alignment. If they succeed, they get somewhat of the alignment. This is a very strange feat. It doesn't seem to be magical, but you can apparently suss out whether someone is evil or not. Alignment is just a strange thing in our modern day games, and in theory, if you ascertain along one axis, which is the good or evil, you could basically just immediately pick up whether this person's a no good person or not. So kind of seems to pretty much do all the work for you. You can detect magic. All right. And you can up it to do it as a 4th level detect magic, but then you can't do it again for 8 hours. Doesn't seem great. Oh, wow. There are only 3 feats in this. Bolera's Interrogation, another 3 action, which you can use 3 times per day. That's very strange. We've been doing this for a long time, and I don't know that we have really seen something like that come up all that often. Where you can do something not once per day or once every 10 minutes or once per hour, but 3 times per day. So you focus your attention again on a single creature within 30 feet. They make a will save. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, so it's like with the sense alignment, it's a secret check, but it's perception against their deception DC. And then Bolera's is they have to make a will save versus your perception DC. It's just kind of strange how that, how that goes back and forth there. I don't necessarily know that I love that. But on a failure, they cannot speak any lies. And they take a -2 penalty to deception checks. It's interesting. So they can't speak any deliberate lies, but they take a -2 penalty to a deception check. If you can't speak any lies, why would you even need to make a deception check? Seems a little strange to me. It lasts for 10 minutes. As long as you're within 30 feet of the target and the target is aware that you're using the ability against it. Boy, some very gamist language. And then once someone's been interrogated, they become immune to this for 24 hours. Very strange. I don't like this pretty much at all. It has a bunch of kludgy, gamey feats, so it doesn't really feel very flavorful to me. And the mechanics of this are really sus. I'm going to put this in D flavor. I think this is a pretty underwhelming. Archetype. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the archetypes coming out of the APs have been pretty underwhelming. Forlorn Knight is saying, oh, you can you get a -2 penalty to impersonate and feint. Yeah, but if we're doing an interrogation, what are we doing these ones for? So KC says, yeah, it's a D. All right, I can buy that. All right, our next one is Eldritch Archer. We got super chat from Cybersmith. Super chat from Cybersmith. Let's see. Cybersmith says alignment now. Next, there will be an archetype feat for water pressure, which is a shout out to our Patreon Discord, where there's been some rather passionate discussion about whether or not water pressure should deal damage to you in Pathfinder 2. If you're interested in discussing water pressure in Pathfinder 2, sign on up for the Knights of the Last Call Patreon. Thank you, Cybersmith. That's very generous of you. I thought you were going to be in bed, man. You told me. You said I'm going to bed. But I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Eldritch Archer is next. You have to be an expert in at least one type of bow, and I know that this is the case because spoiler alert for our Rise of the Rune Lord actual play. But Gwildor, the dwarf wizard who Tim played, who had a crossbow, had planned, was his whole thing was he wanted to go Eldritch Archer because he thought it would be cool to be like a bow wizard or like a bow caster. But because you needed to be expert in a type of bow, and there's no way to get better than expert if you're a wizard until you get high level, he had to take the archer so that when he would eventually become expert in simple weapons, he would also be an expert in a bow so that he could then take Eldritch Archer. Unfortunately, he never really got that high. He also discovered by the time they were about 10th level that him being an archer was pointless because him being an expert in a bow, but not having a key strength or key dex and being 2 points behind on proficiency from everybody else and being like 2 or 3 points behind on stat meant he essentially was never going to hit anyways. And so unfortunately, he abandoned his whole concept. Long story short, Eldritch Archer is really more for fighters. It's for your martial characters who want to pick up some magical bow abilities. It's not really for casters looking to add some archery abilities to you. There's no real good way. It's if you're a martial character in Pathfinder 2, it's kind of easy to pick up relatively good spells, especially when you consider that many of the best spells in the game really don't require saves. Some of the great utility spells in the game: Dimension Door, Haste, Heroism, Heal, or Magic Missile, and which is obviously an attack spell. And so you could pick those up, and because of the way the game system works, your DC might be a few points behind, but you can still get a lot of use out of your magic. And you get a lot of spells if you take, the spellcasting archetype feats. It does not really work the other way. If you are a caster and you are looking for a way to sort of increase your martial capability, your options are pretty slim because ultimately you will never be able to get your proficiency to master. And so you are always going to be 2 or 3 points, 4 points behind where the other people are. And almost every martial ability really requires you hitting. So that's kind of one of the problem a lot. It's where the problem lies. If you really want to be the caster martial character, you kind of have to be a magus. So we got the Eldritch Archer dedication. Now this one's a feat 6, so this is sort of a higher tier of the of our dedication. Not something you can just pick up at level 2, even though a fighter would be qualified to it. But they can't take it till 6, so noted. Does have the magical trait, so we are in for that. So what do you get? You get a kind of a crappy spell strike, which is to say it's still pretty okay. You get a 3-action activity, and for starters, you get cast a spell. You pick a list, and that's going to give you the ability to use scrolls and wands and the whole
Lazarus
shebang.
Dark tipped
Hey,
$5. PF2
Lazarus.
rank streams are like dating a girl for a couple of years, and on wedding night she removes fake nails, eyelashes, wig, mask, and you realize she was 3 goblins in a trench coat the whole time. But you tilt your head and squint. Hey, maybe we can make it work.
That is oh, that's classic. Thank you for that tip, Lazarus Dark. I don't know why here, is this working? Here, hold on a sec. I don't even know what's working anymore. My Stream Deck needs to update or something like that, so it's throwing me all sorts of errors when I'm trying to run sound. So, thanks Elgato. Okay. So you get a cantrip. Yep, you get one cantrip instead of two cantrips like you normally would get for a spell casting. Then you get Eldritch Shot, which is 3 actions, and you cast a spell of 1 or 2 actions, and that it requires a spell attack roll. So your Hydraulic Push, your Searing Light, your Polar Ray, and then you make a strike with your bow. So it's very similar to Spell Strike, except it's 3 actions instead of 2 actions, but there's no reloading. You can just do this every round. You can just take 3 actions, and you're not really gaining any action economy here because you're using 1 action to strike and you're using 2 actions to make a ranged touch or a spell attack. What you are gaining is you're not applying your multiple attack penalty until the end. You're sort of putting all of your eggs in one basket, and then shooting with that. Laz says, okay, it's cold outside. I just came in to warm in by the dumpster fire. I'm going to have to catch the VOD later. Everyone huddle around. Don't be shy. Plenty of dumpster fire to go along for everybody. Thank you, Lazarus Dark. Appreciate it. I know we have a special relationship with this series, and I appreciate you stopping by and showing your support. Yes, it's weird, but the fact that you get a free cantrip if you don't have spell casting implies that you should take this and then get a casting multiclass. That is kind of true. Yes, if you don't know, but it says, actually though, Cybersmith, it says, if you don't already cast spells from spell slots, you could have taken a spell casting dedication because you will have gained cantrips, which is not casting from spell slots, and you would still gain this ability. Right, so you don't really gain any action economy gain. You gain a map economy gain, but the other thing that you gain, Boothby, here is this idea of now I can aid this attack. Now we can cast, True Target on this attack. And we're going to get all of those benefits into both the strike and into the spell. And since it's a bow, and bows are usually deadly, like this is a great shot to want to stack as much bonus to hit on as possible because you want to get that double crit, right? The deadly crit with the bow plus the crit from, say, the Polar Ray or the Searing Light, right? And you can just deliver absolutely brutal critical hits with this dedication. So, again, it is a martial archetype, but I mean, Tim wanted to go for there with his wizard, and it was not going to work out because of the way the math worked. But when we originally were looking at his character, Gwildor, we were really impressed with this just Eldritch Shot ability in general. Let's see. Ryan says, I've been working on a Precision Ranger with a free archetype blend of Beastmaster and Eldritch Archer. Well, that's probably a pretty powerful combination of things. Ray Sean says, gonna play a Mastermind Rogue / Eldritch Archer in Kingmaker. Any thoughts? That's, again, just a ton of potential damage there. You really need to make sure that you have a team that's going to be capable of hopefully supporting you and helping you out, because you really want to make sure, with a bow, your best bet is going to be for them to be flat-footed via being grappled or being prone, because you're not going to really be able to rely on the flat flanking. So, because you want to be able to make sure that you hit and get that sort of flat-footed sneak attack plus spell, like that's just going to be sick damage. Very cool, though. Let's see. Could this be used to heal at extreme range? No, because it has to be a spell with a spell attack, Cybersmith, and heal does not have a spell attack. It's just a save. All right, and then we get feats that will give you more spell casting. Similar to basic spellcasting benefits, similar to expert spellcasting benefits, similar to master spellcasting benefits. So that's no different than what we've seen from any of the other spellcasting classes. I will note that you do not gain the spellcasting breath feat, so it doesn't look like you can ever pick up more than one spell slot per level. So probably going to want to end up melding this with another free archetype so that you get more slots. That's what I would imagine most people are probably going to want to do. An enchanting arrow is 2 actions. Got a lot of traits here. So for 2 actions, you enchant your ammunition to make it a foe more vulnerable to attacks. Make a bow strike. On a hit, they take an additional 2d6 mental damage, and on a critical hit, it is stunned 1, no save, no incap. I mean, that's pretty sweet. Again, you could easily cast True Strike and then cast Enchanting Arrow and potentially do a bunch of damage here with a very powerful critical hit and throw on a stun 1, no save. Very powerful. Only downside here is the mental trait and the emotion trait that's going to, make certain creatures immune to that. But I know I see people here talking about investigators with it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, investigators with, all the bonuses they get to from following a lead, seems like that would be pretty cool. You can also pick up Magic Arrow, which is a free action that you can do once per round. You choose 3 types of common magical ammunition, such a 4th level or lower from the book, or potentially other ammunition if your GM allows it. And you transform a non-magical arrow or bolt into a piece of ammunition of the type you chose. You must shoot it basically by the end of the turn. And if it has the activate entry, you still need to spend the actions to activate it. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how good the magic ammunition is of 4th level or lower. So we don't get any of these higher level ones. We just get some of these lower level ones. I mean, this looks like your, what's he called? The green arrow, the boxing glove arrow, the harpoon arrow, the climbing arrow. These seem mostly kind of kiddie and jokey, but it could give your character some fun versatility, which I wouldn't be opposed to. Precious arrow. So this one, for 1 action, you can create your arrow to be cold iron or silver, and at 14th, you can go to adamantine. That's very cool versatility, but with the action economy and the relative cost and how often these things are going to come out, I think you're probably better off just buying those arrows and having them available to you. But if for whatever reason you can't get that kind of ammunition, or these type of resistances show up all the time in your campaign, I think this is a very cool, unique, interesting feat. No limitations or no restrictions. Very neat. Very cool ability. Seeker Arrow. You can shoot around corners. Make a bow strike against a foe you can see. The ammunition travels to your target even around corners. Which begs the question, how am I seeing them if they're around the corner? I guess a mirror? Seems kind of strange. But you do ignore the target's concealed condition and all cover. And again, it's 1 action to make a strike with all this additional benefit. So that's pretty great. You're not losing any action economy here. You just get to make a shot. It's a strike, and it ignores cover and ignores concealment. And apparently can shoot around corners, as long as you can see the opponent. So still, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, that, if someone has cover or greater cover, you're ignoring 2 to 4 points of armor class there. which is great. And again, you're not losing any actions in that case. Yes, glass walls. That's the only other option I could think of. Phase arrow. Okay, so one action, you concentrate and make a strike. So again, you're not losing any actions. This is only once a day, though, and we're all the way up to level 16. You make a strike against a foe who is observed or hidden to you. The ammunition travels in a straight line, passing through all non-magical barriers. Magical barriers stop it. The shot ignores cover, concealed, hidden, and bonuses from shields. And it gets a +4 status bonus to hit creatures wearing any type of armor. And they cannot reduce this with a shield block. Very powerful ability. You don't see +4 bonus to hit for essentially no action economy loss in this game system ever. Obviously, this is a status bonus, so this is going to override, not stack with your, say, heroism spell, but very powerful attack. Limited to once a day, though, is going to make this more of a trick than something that you do reliably, but it is for sure fun. And all this other extra stuff of being able to shoot through the wall and stuff. I mean, that's very cool and very powerful and very unique in Pathfinder 2. Then we get Arrow of Death at 18. And again, this is an Eldritch Archer ability only once a day. Make a bow strike for 3 actions. On a hit, you deal an additional 10d10 precision damage. And on a critical hit, the target must also make a fort save against either your class or your spell DC or die. And the save has the death and incapacitation traits, which basically renders it mostly useless. But stacking 10d10 precision damage onto your bow shot could be pretty gross. If your allies aid you, you have heroism cast on you, the enemy's flat-footed and clumsy, and someone casts a true target on you, and you're critting on this thing with, say, 50% chance, 60% chance of critical hit, on top of all the bow damage, on top of any other critical bonus damage. Maybe you have sneak attack, that gets critically doubled. You're dealing an additional 10d10 precision damage. I mean, that's a lot of damage. Again, it's only once a day. It's 3 actions to cast. So it's kind of more of a, I'm not saying this isn't powerful. I'm just saying it's kind of a meme build. You're not really going to be able to get to pull this off all the time. And sometimes you're going to shoot it and you're going to miss. And you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel real stupid and really bad. Sometimes I think things like this should say, like, if you miss, that you don't use it. And it can only be successful once a day, but still, very cool. And then lastly, at level 20, you pick up Impossible Volley, which is, I think, a ranger feat, but you get at level 20. Yeah, it's a fighter and a ranger feat. It's got Flourish and Open, and it's 3 actions. And you have to be using a bow, because it has to have reload 0, something with reload 0. And you make one shot at everybody in an area. Make 1 strike with a -2 penalty against each enemy within a 10-foot radius burst centered at or beyond a point in your volley range. And the thing that's interesting about this is, like, a 10-foot burst is, 10 feet out, so it's 20 feet diameter. Reasonably, I don't know how many foes are even going to be in that burst. I mean, yeah, you get to make 1 attack at -2, I guess. So maybe you end up getting a little bit of map advantage here, but honestly, feats like this don't really impress me. I think feats like this look cooler than they actually are. I feel like at this level of the game, I don't think you would really take it. But overall, Eldritch Archer, awesome. This class is amazing. I love it. Very cool, very strong, has some really cool abilities. Eldritch Shot is a very strong, effective ability. You get it right off the bat. Sure, you have to be level 6 to take this, but it's going to give you these magical capabilities. It's going to give you some really interesting, cool ways that don't really tax your action economy too much. Magical Arrow is a free action. Precious Arrow is 1 action and you get to strike. Seeker Arrow is 1 action and you get to strike. Phase Arrow is 1 action and you get to strike. So you're not really losing anything for a lot of these abilities. This Enchanting Arrow is, while it is 2 actions, it's almost like a it's almost like a power attack for a bow. Doing some additional mental damage, which scales nicely, 2d6 to 3d6 to 4d6. And on a crit, a no-save stunned 1 without the incapacitation trait. This is a very compelling. And there's no limitation to this. You can use this every round. This is a very strong feat. I'm going to give Eldritch Archer an A. I think this archetype is strong. I was impressed with it then. I'm impressed with it now. I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say. Nothing here feels broken. Again, some of these once per day abilities are kind of gimmicky, and I don't think they're really worth it. But Jess says, Derek, is this a good time to appeal a rating from the last stream? Well, Jess, I usually don't listen to appeals unless it comes on a tip. But that's me shilling the stream. But if you want to make a plea in the chat, I will read it. I don't know that I will agree with you, but I will read it. But you are welcome to. All right, Eldritch Researcher is next. By the way, I don't know if you, I think I said this on Tuesday, but I think my goal with these archetypes is to try to finish these up before the end of the year. So just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at in terms of that. We're not gonna race through these. We're gonna do them time. All right. So Jess holds that Dandy is not a flavor archetype. Okay. I'm not mad that you gave Dandy an A. I think that's very cool. And to fully disclose, I did write the archetype. Okay, well, Jess, very cool. Well, you know what? Oh crap. Damien is covering your plea. All right, Jess. Since you wrote the Dandy archetype, why do you believe that it is not a flavor archetype, but is in fact a mechanical archetype? I will let you state your case, and we've got about 40 people here, so we will let it hold. As a reminder, by the way, the Dandy, which I did like, yeah. So I think the reason, now remember, there was a lot of discussion if you saw that stream where I said that I thought that these abilities fit very well within the confines of Pathfinder 2 as a mechanics-based game with intrinsically gamist mechanics to handle many of the aspects of the game. The way that we have feats that tell us how far we can jump, the way that we have feats that tell us how strong we can hit people. We also have an entire skill system, and dare I say archetype system, which allow you to use the skills and the mechanics of the game to precisely engage in a form of social combat. And I thought this archetype did it beautifully. Very fun. A. But KC in chat just highlighted an important part. It is mechanical if that is the way that your group plays out their social role-playing encounters. But the majority of tables, including the GMG, which recommends that you just role-play it out, maybe make a skill check or two. Now, I don't know. I can't say for sure. But in my sense, that is going to be the case for a lot of tables. And whether that's because of Critical Role or the advice in the GMG or just the way that people prefer to play the game, that is why I felt like this was more of a flavor win. All right, Jess says, it works even if you roleplay social encounters, in my opinion. A reaction like distracting flattery doesn't have to trigger off of a failed attempt to coerce or make a request. That is true. It just says, you observe a target's attitude toward yourself or allies decrease as a result of your allies' behavior. Jess, do you think that a lot of those tables are using formally the attitude rules? I mean, JG, I agree with you. It's not mechanics doesn't necessarily have to be combat. It just has to mean, is this archetype more about adding flavor and sort of style and tying you into Galarian, or is it mechanical? It is a very mechanical class, absolutely. But, and I am aware that the skill mechanics in Pathfinder 2 are very, very deep. And I've said this many, many times. However, the sense is that most people, at least my sense of it, is that most people ignore that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a poll. First things first. Social mechanics in PF2, i.e. make an impression, request, using attitudes, like helpful, hostile, unfriendly, you name it, right? Do you use them? All right, that's the question. That's the question out to the chat. So, the formalized set of rules that exist in Pathfinder 2, do you use them? Or to put it in another way, if a character did not possess distracting flattery, and you were just doing free-form role-playing, and somebody made a faux pas, and another character who no one even has the dandy archetype, but another character was like, well, no, I'm sorry. What my dwarven friend meant to say is that he thinks that your party could use a little bit more lively attitude, and that's what we're here to do. He didn't mean it was boring. He's just saying it could be more fun. And then the person laughs and says, "Oh, you're right. It is a bit stuffy in here, and we should liven things up, right?" So I think that social mechanics are a good thing. So I'm gonna let this run for a few moments, and then we'll get back to it. If I only use them occasionally, do I put yes or no? GM Scott, I think you would say yes. I guess. I don't know. My sense is that a lot of people ignore that stuff. Again, I think it's a damn travesty. I think it's a shame. As I've said before, to me, mechanics, role-playing is not talking in character. Role-playing is not a social encounter. You are role-playing every time you are making decisions as a character instead of the player of the game. That means even combat is role-playing. Full stop. This game is decided upon you taking actions and then using mechanics and dice to determine the outcome of those actions. And then as a player and as a group, having to react and respond and strategize and plan to those, outrageous slings and arrows of fortune to navigate your way through an evolving story or an emerging plot line or your character's own self-motivated goal. That, to me, is what makes role-playing games both fun and a game. Whenever, as a GM, I get myself into a situation where I'm essentially playing Mother May I with the GM, and I'm not really trying to convince anyone or my character, I'm just speaking in character and the GM is deciding things, that is when I sometimes get a little bit more like, what are we doing right now? Now, to be clear, there are games that do that, and that's fine. They're also like 2 pages long, and that's awesome, because then there's no mental capacity. But if I'm going to pick up a big honkin' chonka like the core rulebook for Pathfinder 2, and we are going to invest all this time and effort, and maybe, if you're a rogue or an investigator, like 20 skill feats into a system, well, then we should be using them, right? I don't agree with categorizing Dandy as a flavor class just because some people ignore the mechanics it engages with. Well, guess what, Jess? 65% of the people here say they do use the social mechanics. And since Damien officially covered your official categorization request, I'm going to move the Dandy to an A in mechanics. As a social mechanical class, which is a part of Pathfinder 2, I find this class to be very intriguing and having a lot of power in a fun and engaging way that works that. So good job. In case you didn't notice it, Jess, it's hard to get an A on Knights of Last Call. So very good job. Since we kind of shoot down almost everything here. All right. Thank you. All right. So back to Eldritch Researcher. This is another one. Hands of the Devil. So this is Abomination Vaults. So spoilers for that adventure path. I already got this. You are a seeker of arcane lore, obsessed with ancient rituals and hidden secrets. You have been particularly enlightened with accumulated lore. Big spoilers here, by the way. Of the thresholds of truth. Okay. So you have to be trained in arcana and occultism. And you gain the ability to cast a single arcane or occult cantrip of your choice. And you become an expert in either arcana or occultism. And you get a +1 circumstance bonus when you are investigating or identifying magic in that chosen trait. This is okay. I mean, we like things that give you expert. Getting a single cantrip's all right. Not a caster, though, so let's take a look. Seeker of Truths. You get the Cleric Domain feat, but it has to be from Knowledge, Secrecy, or Truth. You can cast that domain spell as a focus spell, and you refocus by contemplating the mysteries. When an ability would manifest a divine symbol, it instead magnifies a strange shape that unique to you that seems to defy geometry. Okay, we're getting very Cthulhian here. We're getting very, the Elder Sign. Strange script. Once per day, you can touch a single text and understand its meaning. No check. If it's in a code or a cipher, you do get a +2 bonus to decipher it. Okay, very cool. Scholarly Defense. You gain physical resistance to damage from aberrations and oozes equal to a third of your level. You know, considering that Abomination Vaults only goes to 10th level, that's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. All right. Able Ritualist. You get a +2 circumstance bonus to primary and secondary checks when attempting to cast a ritual. Another system that apparently nobody uses in Pathfinder 2. I don't think I've even seen 1/3 in this game. In fact, here, and don't lie. I know I can tell when you're lying to me. So don't do it. Now, Steven from Roll for Combat was very honest about this. And he said, they don't use them. Do you use rituals in your Pathfinder 2 game? And I don't mean, we used one once, it was Resurrection. I mean, are they a reasonably common part of your Pathfinder 2 game? Are you casting them? Are you using them? But anyways, this is pretty cool. Lorefinder. I will say that I agree with JG. So far, this isn't particularly AP specific. It's kind of like the weird, crazy, kooky, arcane researcher, Call of Cthulhu investigator. Lorefinder. You know that fate sometimes conspires deep. You deny the fate, and you now can cast Locate as an innate occult spell once per day. Know-it-all. When you succeed at a recall knowledge check, which is already the most vague thing in the game, you gain additional information. And when you critically succeed, at the GM's discretion, you might... I love everything about this sentence. So, when you critically succeed, it's like someone saying, like, are you going? You know what? I'm thinking that there is a definite chance that I might go, maybe, possibly. So you have to credit the recall knowledge check, which is already vague, and then at the GM's discretion, so possibly, you might gain additional information or context than normal. It's like, isn't that what critically succeeding on a knowledge check already does? You are late.
$5, a little something something to sweeten the Eldritch researcher rating.
A little something something to sweeten the out. Now you think I can be bought? Booth B, you think I can be bought? Wow, you guys just don't respect me. Okay. Still, there's a lot of feats going on in here. Okay, so let me go through this real quick. The dedication, yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. Seeker of Truths. I think this is cool. I like that you pick up a cantrip or a domain spell. That's kind of cool. Strange Script, I like it. I actually do like it. I think that's fun. Scholarly Defense, very underpowered. Let's be real here. Being, level 20 and getting 6 resistance against aberrations and oozes. Even if you're only fighting aberrations and oozes, that's pretty inconsequential. Able Ritualist. I mean, again, how many rituals are you casting? Also, you have to get a circumstance bonus, which you can just get from an aid. Check, by the way. Lore Finder is once per day to cast Locate. Seems like a lot for an archetype feat, considering that there are other archetype feats which, are part of spellcasting archetypes. And this thing gave you a cantrip, by the way, that give you 3 spells, like a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth, or a first, a second, and a third. This just gives you 1. I suppose the advantage is it gives it to you closer to the level in which a caster would have gotten it. But, Know-it-all. When you succeed, okay, yeah, and this one is just so vague, on top of a vague mechanic. Not a big fan. Advanced Seekers of Truth. You gain an advanced domain spell from one of the domains, and you increase your focus points by 1. Okay, so more domain spells, that's fine. And Words of Unraveling. You have unlocked obtruse methods to tangle with reality. It says, once per day as an occult innate spell, you may cast Daydreamer's Curse, Outcast Curse, or Savant's Curse. So only one of those 3 curses, and curses aren't the greatest. As the GM's discretion, you can substitute or add additional occult curse spells of 4th level or lower to this list. You may choose a different spell each time you cast it. Okay. Entities from Afar. You can cast Summon Entity, which is a level 5 spell from the occult. So they were casting this at level 9. You get this at level 14. Yikes. You can demand it answers your questions. So this is very similar to not Planar Ally, but Planar Binding from 3rd edition. And you get Incredible Recollection for 1 action. You can sift through the 9 knowledge of your mind at incredible speed. For 1 action, you can instantly use up to 5 recall knowledge actions. And you can use that as many times as you want per day. That seems pretty good. That's good. I mean, that's cool. Incredible Recollection. I like that one. You'll never get to use it in the AP, but it's a cool feat. All right, so 50-50. Do you use rituals? 50% of you said no. 50% of you said yes. We got a super chat from Cybersmith who said, in my opinion, rituals are a great narrative tool once or twice per campaign. Not worth feats, but they are a great multi-session goal. Very cool. Anthony says the Ghost Hunter archetype from AV is just objectively good. We haven't gotten there yet, but Bob, when we played Abomination Vaults, which was our first Foundry game, when we played that during COVID, Bob had a dwarf ranger who had the Ghost Hunter archetype, and I do remember thinking that was pretty cool. All right. Well, this isn't really super tied in to the AP. But I'm gonna rule this one as a flavor archetype because to me it feels kind of similar to the archaeologist or the probably the archaeologist. Honestly, it's pretty cool. So when I think about the archaeologist, that was just a better design archetype than this one. This one's a little sus. I like some of the abilities it gets. It's kind of sad that it doesn't get more spell casting abilities. It gets these kind of 1 feat for 1 spell. Not a huge fan of that. But it's got a lot of flavor. It feels very cool. You feel kind of weird and wonky. I wish they'd lean more into that and given you something more unique. There's a lot of stuff around recall knowledge. I guess it really comes down to how powerful is this? This is a very GM dependent feat. And if your GM is a very big stickler and hates to give you out information and useful knowledge with recall knowledge checks, and trust me, there are a lot of GMs out there that for some odd reason hate when their players figure out what's going on. It drives them crazy. It's like they want their players to be in the dark, I don't know, the whole time until like the very last final encounter. I don't understand why, but they do. But if this feat, this know-it-all feat, inspires or convinces your GM to actually start giving you useful information with recall knowledge, I mean powerful information, this could potentially be one of the best feats in the game. If it doesn't really change the way that they're doing anything, because again, recall knowledge is already kind of vague. If it doesn't really change the way that they are responding to it, I'm much more low on this particular feat. But I do think, in a sense, this feat here at 10, and then if you're going to higher level, this incredible recollection are really, I think, where the strength of this archetype lies. And yeah. But I'm going to put it at C. So, very good flavor, but I just don't think there's enough there. I think it's too limited, and it doesn't inspire me the way that some of these other higher B's and A's did in terms of really selling me on that is what your character is. So,
Frostjack tipped $5 off topic. Are you going to watch the NR Dragon Raid?
Frostjack with a $5 tip asking, off topic, am I going to watch the Northern Reaches Dragon Raid? Of course I am. We are still, for those of you at home who may be wondering, who aren't part of this, Northern Reaches is Knights of Last Calls. I think it's 150 player character community Pathfinder 2 game that exists in a persistent world where one day in real world is one day in the Northern Reaches. Each season lasts a calendar year. So we started at the beginning of the year and it ends actually here in the next week and a half. This weekend, one of the major villains which emerged, a great white dragon overlord named Valax, she is finally, she has been roaming and killing and maiming and pillaging for months now. And finally, this weekend, one of our bedrock members of our community, who is known for being a bit of an old school killer GM, is going to be running 30 PCs in sort of a massive raid against this incredibly huge, amazing dragon. He's created an entire raid mechanic system. There's different subgroups with combat commanders and combat leaders. The community has one person who's sort of the general of the raid. It's going to be, I think, a bloodbath, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And Frostjack is asking, am I going to be watching it? I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm hoping that I can, catch it. So very, 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 very cool, and really looking forward to it. And also, too, there's a lot running on this. Casey, is Ben running this on a real map? Yes. So the way that Ben doesn't use VTTs. Ben uses cameras. He's a bit of an AV guru. And Ben will actually physically set up massive dioramas and real terrain and has different camera angles that the players can see it. So it's physical that being converted over. So it's really, really, really cool. So a lot of fun there. It's going to be really awesome. Are there VODs of the Knights of the Last Call AV playthrough anywhere? No. That was kind of before. That was like before we really formed the Knights of the Last Call, Leon. So we do not have that anywhere. Jess, that's probably a safe rule that all the AP archetypes are flavor archetypes. So I agree with that. I agree, Lug. I think that if you're speaking about that know-it-all feat, I do agree that that's kind of a unique feat. Would it be better if creature stat blocks just explicitly said what recall knowledge told players? I think there's a lot of people who would say yes, or at least give me some directions and give me a sense of what to do. Jess, we will be opening up new player applications in January, so hope to see you there. 8 hours, says Pumpkin. That's how long the dragon's going to run. So, can't wait to die in the dragon raid. It's very much a we were about to die, salute you. I think this is still in the case, but one of Ben's rules is he doesn't use the dying rules in Pathfinder 2. There's basically everything has the death trait. If you go to 0 hit points, you're dead. But he has a new system that sort of lets you, instead of dying, you acquire negative conditions. It's pretty cool. He's really gone above and beyond. I need to get him a nice gift. Boy. This is a long one too, huh, folks? Elementalist, sheesh. I know this is from Secrets of Magic. Right, you can go to -20, exactly. So it's not your standard. Yeah, this is a class archetype. That's true, not a regular archetype. Yep, class archetype. All right, we're gonna pend an elementalist. Just because it's a class archetype, and I want to just get through some more stuff tonight. All right, we're going to do the Exorcist. All right. The Exorcist, not just a movie. From the Book of the Dead, you pacify spirits, ghosts, and haunts. Get some additional feats. Okay, the dedication coming in at level 4. You have to be trained in occultism or religion. Seems pretty simple. One object in your possession becomes a spirit dwelling. Oh, God. Man, these people go off the deep end with these mechanics, huh? Your spirit dwelling functions as a lure so you become a Ghostbuster. Oh, sorry. Good call. You create a spirit dwelling, which is a lure for lost spirits weakened by their time on the material plane. Each day during your daily preparation to your spirit dwelling attracts a spirit wisp who will come to live inside. If your dwelling contains no wisps, you can spend 10 minutes in a ritual to cast your spirit dwelling around an area and attract a new wisp. You also can capture stronger spirit remnants from vanquished undead spirits, as described in the spirit dwelling and remnant sidebar. But if you do all of this, it glows in a 10-foot radius. All right. As an exorcist, you do more than just collect spirits. You also help rid them of their burdens and lingering resentments, aiding their transition from the material plane. Every day before your daily preparations, any spirit wisp or remnants attached to your spirit dwelling are purified and can join the river of souls in their final journey to Pharasma's boneyard. You also gain Spirit's Mercy. If you take positive or negative damage, you take any type of damage caused by a haunt, ghost, or other incorporeal undead. At the cost of one of your wisps or remnants, you purify a spirit by having it perform a final act of mercy to lessen the damage caused by another spirit. So this is essentially an extremely complicated focus point with a ton of role-playing and flavor attached to it, because you can use it once, and then you can spend 10 minutes to get a new wisp, but and therefore basically limiting you to doing it once every 10 minutes. It is essentially a focus point. It's a special focus point. This reaction grants you resistance to the damage twice your level. And if you expend a spirit remnant, it is 3 times the level. So you can get a wisp for free, but if you basically kill or destroy a haunt, a ghost, or an incorporeal undead, it's like you get a super focus point. I don't know about the flavor of this. I'm not into the whole occultism, supernatural, spiritual thing, but I like the concept of this additional resource tracking, the idea that you can, with 10 minutes, essentially just get this wisp, this sort of base level spiritual essence. But when you actually do the thing, you know how I talk a lot about Jared Sorensen's rules, right? What does this thing want you to do? Does it give you the tools to do it? And then if you do it, does it reward you? And the answer for this archetype is yes. It's giving you the tools to exercise and gather spirits. Then, when you do go and defeat a haunt or a ghost or an incorporeal undead, then you get to collect a spirit remnant, which is going to further reward you by having an increased effect when you use your Exorcist abilities. In this case, you get a baseline of 2x your level, and if you expend a spirit remnant, it is 3x the level of the haunt or undead that you banished or otherwise got rid of. I don't need to tell you, if you're higher, if you're low level, you're level 7 and you banish a level 7 haunt and you get 21 resistance to an attack, that's a lot. Now, granted, it is only against haunts, ghosts, or incorporeal undead. That's pretty limited. But if you're doing a campaign, very Book of the Dead, very spiritual, spooky, haunty, that could come up all the time. That would be extremely powerful. So, good there. Cast out. Roll a counteract check against the possession effect. You have to be within 30 feet. Your level is half your level rounded up. Pretty standard. And it is your occultism or your religion modifier, or your spell DC minus 10, whichever's higher. If you succeed, the entity is driven out and can't attempt to repossess that creature for a week. If you fail, they are immune for a year and a day. But there's no limitation to this. So, again, the class is called Exorcist, or the archetype is called Exorcist. You would hope that they would be able to cast out demons and do so particularly effectively. Now, this has all the drawbacks that Counteract has, but I can't really fault it for that. It's only 2 actions. I like this. Spirit's Absolution. So you have to have a wisp or a remnant, and you purify a spirit by absolving it of its sins and regrets. This cathartic experience restores hit points of you or an adjacent ally. If you expend the wisp, you get D4 per your level. And if it's a remnant, remember those are the haunts, incorporeal undead, or ghosts that you've essentially killed. They get 1d6 hit points per level of that creature. So, lay on hands. Kind of a weak lay on hands, D4, instead of D6. But if you have the remnant, you get basically full lay on hands. Now, of course, you're only ever going to be able to have 1 remnant in your spirit dwelling, unless they give you a feat which lets you collect more spirits in your spirit dwelling. So, there is that limitation. But it's very cool. Spirit's Anguish. Again, you need to have your wisp or your remnant. You purify it again. I also love the flavor. You're like, sure, I'm collecting these spirits, but I'm actually helping them go on their way. by converting them into an AoE damage spell. This deals sonic damage. 1d4 points of sonic damage for every level you have, or 1d6 points of damage if it is a remnant. And again, this is all creatures within 30... Oh, no. Damage to all creatures in a 30-foot cone. So, you know, it's not... This is going to underperform Cone of Cold. It'll basically be on par with like a Burning Hands with a slightly longer reach. So that's not great, but it's not bad. Spiritual Sense. You have a vague connection to the ethereal plane that enables you to notice spirits. While you are exploring but not searching, you make a secret check to find haunts that require searching, as well as spirits. So you get to free exploration activity, noticing things. You can also potentially noticing on spirits inside of solid objects. You automatic secret check even if you're not searching. And if you do notice it, it's hidden, not undetected. So there's lots of ways of basically saying your character gains a sense that they will be able to detect spirits and haunts, as well as celestials, fiends, and monitors. You get blind fight for some reason. But you don't have to make... you automatically succeed at flat checks against concealed creatures, and you're not flat-footed, and then the DC for a hidden creature drops down by 5. Okay. And while you're adjacent to an undetected creature lower level than you, it's just hidden to you. So great for fighting all those invisible ghosts, I guess. Here it is. We knew it was going to be there. Your spirit dwelling becomes particularly inviting to wisps, and now during your daily preparations or whenever you refocus, you get 2 wisps. So this is literally like a separate focus pool. You basically get a second focus pool, which is pretty cool. And by the way, this feat, Enticing Dwelling, is this is increasing the focus pool and giving you an additional focus point all in the same feat. So that's pretty cool. You get Sense Evil. Same as the Paladin. You get Sense the Unseen, which we know is a Ranger, Rogue, Investigator feat, which is a reaction. If you fail a check to seek, you get to re-roll it. Oh no, even if you failed the check, you automatically sense any undetected creatures, and they just become hidden to you. So, Luke, I don't know every single archetype in the game, but, you know, we've been playing the game for a while now, and I'm sure someone here would like to tune in if they know, but, you know, this is a relatively new book. To my knowledge, you know, and while you mentioned Panache and Spell Strike, those to me are less of a resource and more of a switch, you know? Like, is it on or off? This Spirit Wisp is a very cool resource. This is a fun mechanic. Lot of, you know, S-tier flavor. This is great. This is fantastic. Is this good for your generic campaign? No. No, it is not. But if you are doing this and you are into this flavor and you know, you love, you know, this is what your campaign is about and makes sense for your character, this thing is oozing with flavor. I love the mechanics of this class. I think it meets a lot of my criteria from a gamist perspective. It is tying the mechanical reward of the game to the motivation and purpose of the fiction. This is a very fictional mechanical connection between these abilities, and I just really love this. I mean, this is amazing. This is probably one of the better archetypes that we've seen. Yeah, love it. Very surprised. Very cool. A little complicated at first, but you know, we got there. I don't have any water in here. Damn it. By the way, I want to say quick shout out. Thank you to our patrons for supporting us. We've got a lot of activities coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Community games, Northern Reaches finales. We're trying to set up this Pop It holiday game. God help us. And all of that is possible because of the support of our patrons. And if you are enjoying these series, you want us to show your support to the Knights of the Last Call, but more importantly, if you want to take your gaming, your TTRPG expertise to the next level, you're going to want to join our Patreon, patreon.com/Knights of the Last Call. It's going to get you a wealth of access to extra videos, our Battle Cry e-zines as they come out, extra Zoom calls with the community games, Northern Reaches once Season 2 opens. But also you get access to our Discord. It's a private Discord. It's only available to our members. And the people there it is not an echo chamber. It is not just groupthink. These are people who will debate with you, and they will fight with you. But they're going to do so respectfully and consideringly, and it is a very great place to have your beliefs challenged, which is a fantastic way to grow. It's also a great way for you to explore your ideas about the hobby and about role-playing games in general and bounce them off of people who are, quite frankly, very good at the game. So there's a lot of benefit to be there if you take this hobby of ours seriously. If it's more like a lifestyle, you definitely want to consider it. Yeah, for extra good RPGing, join the Knights. We're the best. This is where I would normally hit my soundboard, but it needed updated and it's not working. GM Scott, shout out to GM Scott. Shout out to GM Scott, incredible. GM Scott, when are we got to meet up again? I don't know how or when, but that was a lot of fun last time. We need to hang out and drink. Okay. Familiar Master. I am not that... Oh, are we done with the E's? All right. We finished a letter, people. I've not been impressed with familiars in Pathfinder 2. Generally speaking. Familiars were never really that great, but they just seem particularly out of place in Pathfinder 2. All right, let's see. You get a familiar, and if you already have a familiar, you get the enhanced familiar feat, and the enhanced familiar feat, so you get a familiar, and this gives you enhanced familiar, which I think gives you extra master abilities, yes. So the problem with the familiar and the master abilities is, like so many of these, you take them, and it gives your familiar the ability to just be the creature that it already is, right? Like if you're like, oh, I have an owl. You're like, okay, I want it to fly and have dark vision and maybe have, what's the one here? Scent or some sort of acute senses or something. And you're like, okay, cool, it has those. And you're like, all right, yeah. And you're like, yeah, it's just an owl. That's it. It doesn't really do anything else. If you're a witch, you get to add these abilities. Add the bonus familiar abilities you gain for being a witch to this amount. So, my God, you could have all of them. Familiar Conduit. So, for one action, if your next action is to cast a spell that has a range, the spell uses the familiar as the origin point. I mean, maybe there's a world where that's useful. I know it seems like I'm being shitty on these, but I've had a lot of people in Pathfinder 2 games I've had play with familiars, and they just get they're just flavor. They're just flavor. This is one of the more useful abilities that we have. Familiar Mascot. Your familiar is the heart and soul of the adventuring team. This is really funny. story time. So, in a campaign, it probably would have been 3rd edition, 3.0. It was 3.0. And I was playing a wizard named Asinius. And Asinius was a sort of neutral, power-mad, obsessed with gaining magical power wizard. His party members were very much a means to an end. And of course, he had a familiar. And the joke, the joke was that, like, my familiar was like just there to give me alertness, and like I didn't even give it a name. It was just called the Raven. That was the only thing it was called. It was called the Raven. And I'm not saying I mistreated it. To me, it was just a tool. It was just like just an object. And but like the Raven had the ability to speak, and the party cleric was always very nice to the Raven. And we were playing a game, and the rest of our party wasn't there, and it was me and the cleric and the barbarian, and we were going on a separate adventure. And Aaron, who was our game master, described some flavor text, and I remember being very dismissive of it. I was like, yeah, Aaron, we don't care about your flavor text. Let's just get to the dungeon. And the flavor text had included like that there were some chickens or something. Well, it turns out it was like a whole flock of cockatrices, and the cockatrices descended upon us, and they turned us all to stone. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, and we hadn't told anybody, and we were like, no, what's going on? And the session ended. And we were sitting there trying to figure out what we could do. And, Aaron told us, don't tell the other players what happened to you because they wouldn't know. We'll see if they can figure it out. And, wow. Speak of the devil, he shall appear. SC Voldo in the chat was the cleric in this situation. And so, like, days later, we're at work, and suddenly SC Voldo and I run into Aaron's office. And we say, The Raven wasn't turned to stone. The Raven can fly back to town and can let the rest of the party members know that what happened to us. And Aaron thought about it contemplatively for a few moments. He goes, yeah, but the Raven hates you. And then we go, yeah, but he loves the cleric. And Aaron's like, okay, good point. He does. He really does love the cleric. And so the Raven flew back to town instead of just getting, just noping the hell out, and saved our butts. So I was always a little bit more appreciative of him after that. Anyways, fun story about familiars. Probably the only time one was really, really, really great. So yeah. So, Lou, you say flyer plus share sense is an amazing combo. So that is probably what we got the most use out of it on. When we were playing Abomination Vault's Foundry, our wizard had familiar, would take share senses, and it was like a bird had flyer plus share senses, and I would basically just share vision on the token and just move the bird around the whole dungeon more or less, wherever it could fly, and definitely give them an ability to scout. And that's probably usually the best case scenario for them. I will agree with that. But anyways, you get this familiar mascot. When selecting master abilities, you can choose an ally to benefit from the master ability. Each master ability can only benefit a single character. Okay. The number of abilities required to make your familiar a specific familiar is 2 lower. I always love this idea that you're like, yes, I'm so dedicated to my familiar. I'm trading you out. I'm trading you in for the new model. Mutable familiar. You can conduct a 10-minute activity to reselect abilities on the fly. All right, that's pretty cool. I will agree. Incredible familiar. You can get 6 master or familiar abilities instead of 4. Also, they are an extra head in the party. They can do exploration activities too. Not many GMs would say no to that. Use it for scout and get that sweet +1 initiative. Well, I guess it depends on what the qualifications are to be scouting and what are the qualifications for a creature to be taking an exploration action. I think rules as written, I don't think they can take an exploration action. And then if they're scouting, how are they, communicating this information to the rest of the party? Be good to know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I do think there's a lot of GMs who would say no to that. Okay. This thing is chock full of mechanics. It's going to make your familiar very familiar-y. Yes, I understand you can put the speech ability on them. I'm saying you got to take all the right things. It's a lot of feats to be able to get Scout for free. That's all I'm saying. Right, that's the other problem, Corey. Like, most people become attached to their familiar. You don't want to just see if the room is trapped. Just, fly around. Like, most people feel pretty bad doing that. They get attached to them. They view them more like pets, I don't know. This, to me, is not the most compelling archetype that we've seen tonight. To me, this is obviously a mechanical. It's a mechanical archetype. I mean, all of its abilities are basically just extra mechanics. So the question is this a B or a C or a D? And I'm going to go to the community on this one because I'm not really sure. To me, I'll be honest with you, it feels like a C. I agree with C Grandal 2. It's a C. It does what it does. It says it's going to be a familiar master. Are familiars great in Pathfinder 2? No, they're okay. But it does what it does. It gives you a lot of familiar abilities. It kind of makes you the master of a familiar. Anybody could pick this up. I don't know. To me, it's, I'd give it a C. Familiars are usable. They're just not that good. I agree with that assessment as well. They're usable, but they're not, they're not like super duper compelling in their power or their use, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. Just that it exists. I don't hate it. I'll never take it. To me, familiars are just flavor and focus point batteries, and I think Ryan, you're speaking for a very large percentage of the Pathfinder 2 audience. Okay, well, it looks like we have a solid runaway winner with C, and so we're going to go with C. And you know what? I like it at C. I think that's fine. All right. Okay, let's try to finish up these Fs tonight. How about that, people? This is from the character guide. This is the Firebrand braggart. So immediately, I'm already thinking flavor, but we could be wrong. Because you are a member of the Firebrands, which, they're kind of like, a revolutionary, I don't know how to describe them. They're an organization that, tries to be real, like, show off, and I don't know, would you say they're like I don't know. I can't even think of the word I would use to describe the Firebrands, but I know they have a book coming out, or did the book already come out? There is a book coming out of them, and they will probably be revised or eclipsed. Yeah, that's probably true. Okay. Right off the bat, you can see here that there's a lot of flavor here because you have to be a second mark member of the Firebrands. This is an uncommon dedication, and this, for some odd reason, the dedication has one action. That's funny. That must be an edit. So you declare a boast. Everything is more cheap. By the way, the Firebrands just seem like the most annoying people in the world to me. Achieving something is more satisfying if you boast about it first. You declare a boast about a particular skill action. The first time you attempt this action within the next minute, if the GM deems it suitably challenging and meaningful, you can roll twice and use the lower result. If you succeeded this check, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to checks to attempt the same action for 10 minutes. If you fail this check or don't attempt the action, you take a -1 penalty on checks to attempt the same action for 1 hour. I think the only question there is, Lou, can you assurance the roll? Yes, but I don't know if the GM will deem that suitably challenging or meaningful if you can use assurance on it. So you're going to roll with disadvantage, which is tough. And then if you beat it, you get a +1 bonus on that check for 10 minutes. And if you fail or you don't do it, you get a -1 penalty for an hour. Typically, a challenging task is one with at least a standard DC for your level, which probably rules out the assurance. This is one of the worst dedications ever. This is horrible. Yeah, disadvantage is not just a -5 to a roll, but it means that you're much more likely to critically fail. It's a lot more complicated than just a -5, but it's pretty bad. It would be fine if you could do, standard DC. Assurance can hit standard DCs at specific levels, 2 and 7. That sounds right. There's some wonky levels in there where you get really good. 7 in particular, right? Because you go to master and expert, but your stat bonuses haven't really climbed up. It's only a circumstance bonus, says GM Scott. Chances are good that there's some kind of item that does the same thing. Or someone could just aid you, which is also a circumstance bonus as well. Don Pokey, I completely agree with you. So what if you get the Boaster's Challenge? Okay. You call out a foe, causing them to become flustered and easier to defeat. Select one creature that you can see and declare a challenge. You have to make a deception, diplomacy, or intimidation check against that creature's will DC. It has to include the linguistic, auditory, or visual component. And gains that corresponding trait. If you succeed, you get a +2 status bonus to damage rolls against that foe until the end of your next turn. If you have a master, it's +4, and if you're legendary, it's +6. On a critical success, it lasts for 3 rounds. Whether you succeed or fail, creatures who witnessed your challenge get a +4 circumstance bonus to their will DCs against your attempts to challenge them for a minute. So you can use it multiple times, but it's probably not going to work subsequent times because of the +4 bonus. You're spending 1 action to flick somebody off, and you gain a bonus to damage. That doesn't even make sense to me. And it's, by the way, it's not a circumstance bonus. It's a status bonus, which is the thing that you get from, like, magical effects. It's like the thing that you get from, like, enlarge. Don't like this. Don't like this. Dislike. Daring act for 2 actions. You attempt a death-defying maneuver to distract your enemies. Choose one foe that is within your reach and attempt either an acrobatics or an athletics check against their reflex DC. Okay. If you succeed, you can stride half your speed or your full speed if you critically succeed, and you do not trigger reactions from them due to your movement, and the target is flat-footed against the next melee attack you attempt against it before the end of your turn. And this took 2 actions, so hopefully that is the next action. So this is a 2-action, half-speed stride, no reactions, acrobatics or athletics check, and they flat-footed. So you're getting kind of the benefit of a feint and a tumble. Kind of. Sort of. Yeah. It's this is okay. This is not bad. Yeah, the benefit of mobility. Yeah, I mean this is good. I don't particularly, in theory, we live in a world where not every creature should have attack of opportunity, but a lot of creatures do for some odd reason. But it's fine. Well, the acrobat is on a tier unto itself, Corey C. So we can't just go judging everything against that. Bravo's determination. We live in a society where not many monsters have attack of opportunity. They're not supposed to. That was part of the big talking points of Pathfinder Second Edition. They said full attack actions and attacks of opportunity locked down the combats in Pathfinder 2 or Pathfinder 1, and it made the combat stagnant and not dynamic. And we want to get rid of that and do away with that. And we want the combats to be really exciting and dynamic. And in my experience, all that leads to is a lot of people forming conga lines as everybody just moves to set up a flank. But I digress. I'm just saying they ended up giving a lot more monsters attack of opportunity than I think they should have or could have. Anyways. Bravo's determination is a reaction if a foe strike reduces you to 0 hit points and you were not at 1 hit point and you would not be killed. Okay. Your confidence borders on self-delusion, but it keeps you going against overrolling odds. Attempt a deception check against the attack DC of the triggering strike. Okay, that's an interesting way of using the mechanics, and I don't mind it. You take a penalty to this check equal to twice your wounded value. Sure, let's throw in another fiddly bit. If the triggering attack was a critical hit, then use the result 1 degree of success worse than what you rolled. So let's add in a third fiddly bit. All right, we've put in a lot of fiddly bits here. If you critically succeed, you avoid being knocked out and you remain at 1 hit point. If you succeed, you avoid being knocked out and remain at 1 hit point, but you increase your wounded value by 1. This is cool. It's very fiddly, but, how often are you getting knocked out? The answer is hopefully not that often. So when this comes up, if you have to do a little bit of calculations, and you can definitely see them trying to put in a bunch of simulationism here with, oh, but what if you're wounded? And oh, what if it was a critical hit? And, they're putting all this stuff in here. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty fun. It's a great reaction. You can't deny that. So that's pretty cool. All right, we got a couple more. Great Boaster. Your bragging is particularly effective. This is just an upgrade to your boast. You still have to roll with disadvantage. But now the bonus goes up to +2. But the penalty becomes -2. By the way, the minimum challenging task for a great boast is one with a hard DC for your level. And you're rolling with disadvantage or misfortune. My God. Horrible. Daring Flourish. All right, so this is the Daring Act. That's the 2-action, move at half speed, don't trigger any reactions. The creature's flat-footed to your very next attack this round. So this is an upgrade to the Daring Action. It is now the Daring Flourish. At the end of a successful Daring Act, you can make a melee strike against the target or attempt to disarm the target. The target is flat-footed against the strike you make during the Daring Act, as well as the next melee. Now that becomes pretty compelling. Now you are moving for 2 actions. You're striding. You have to make a check against a reflex DC. But if you succeed, for 2 actions, you're striding, not triggering any reactions, making them flat-footed, and getting a strike. And that flat-footed continues into potentially your 3rd action of the turn, which would be another strike. That's a great one. Very powerful. I like it. That's strong. Horrible. The whole boasting thing, garbage. But Daring Act, Bravo's Determination, Daring Flourish, those are pretty good. These are pretty good, I'm not going to lie. Demanding challenge. If your skill challenge is successful, the target gets a -1 circumstance penalty attack to, or -2 if you succeed until the end of turn. So it's like a weird demoralize kind of thing. I'm not too worried about it. Cybersmith, super chat. I think Daring Act has a problem. If you move as part of it, you aren't in reach for the melee attack. That's correct, Cybersmith. I think the idea, Cybersmith, is that you're moving and you're just moving to a different place on like maybe the other side of the person. You're just moving, you're repositioning to that person. And if you have a reach weapon, potentially you, because the requirement for the daring action, daring act is select a foe within reach. So, you know, if you had like a pole arm or a whip or something. But you know, I think yeah, the idea is like you're kind of circle strafing the opponent and doing some parkour. You know, maybe you're leaping between their legs, you know, doing like a forward parkour roll right between their legs. You're sliding underneath them. Haha, you're flat-footed, son. You didn't see me doing that. You're not going to get a reaction. And I'm going to stab you in your guts. You know, something cool and daring and very, you know, over the top. But thank you for the super chat. But I agree. You're not going to be able to use this to reposition, like against a new foe. Yeah. Okay, Daredevil's Gambit is our last option. It's only at level 12, so you'll pretty much be done with this archetype within the first half of the game. If you critically succeed at your Daring Act, so again, this is building off of that Daring Act, 2 actions, move, avoid attack of opportunity, and they're flat-footed, and you get to make a freet. If you critically succeed at your Daring Act, you can enter the target space and remain there until the beginning of your next turn or until the target moves, whichever comes first. You gain +2 circumstance bonus to your AC, and the target is flat-footed to your attacks while you're sharing its space in this way. If any creature other than your target hits you with an attack while you're sharing the creature's space, attempt a DC 15 flat check. On a success, resolve the attack against the target instead of you. That's great. So, half these feats are horrible. Half these feats are fun. I don't know anything about the Firebrands, but this seems like this doesn't really belong in the flavor department, actually. This... Here's the thing. I get that this thing is called a Firebrand braggart, but I don't really feel like this thing is, Oh, you're right, Lug. I'm thinking DC 15, which is, by the way, 30%. I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking that DC 15 is good for you. You're right. This only happens 30% of the time. So that's not as good. So, my bad. I was thinking of it the opposite way. I was like, oh my God, that's a huge chance for them to hit them. What do you think, people? Is this a flavor archetype or a mechanical archetype? I didn't really see anything here that felt super flavorful, even though this is called the Firebrand braggart. But, I mean, I guess by our definitions, it kind of has to be flavor. So, but I'm not super impressed with most of it. Some of the abilities I think are quite fun, but it feels like more of a mechanical. I've been paying too much 2d20. Lug is definitely on my level here. I'm thinking it's mechanics, and I'm thinking it's a C. Acrobat is better. Yeah, exactly, Don Pokey. It doesn't feel like it does not feel like it's supporting the organization. Like, think about the Bellflower Tiller. That thing was just so oozing with flavor. Yeah, I think it's mechanical as well. It's definitely not an A, and it's definitely not a B because the dedication is bad and some of those abilities are bad. I think C sounds perfect for me. So I'm going to put it to a C mechanics. And I like it. I'm very happy with that. Okay, playing. You know what, GM Scott? Honestly, it could be either of them. Yeah, I mean, that's the coolest thing in that whole archetype is the making the check to avoid being knocked out. That's pretty sweet. All right, fireworks technician. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna highlight this. And I'm gonna put it here. And I'm going to stick this here. And we'll just call it good. All right. You get black powder. You get fireworks lore. You can make fireworks. You can launch a firework. It can be a comet or a flower or a salute. You can make a dragon display. You look at it, you can make jumping jennies and goblin jubilees and banshee cries, and this is just bog standard flavor. You know, there's no way that you're taking this for the mechanics. It lets you do fireworks in your game, and it gives you a bunch of mechanics for it. Like you would ever need these, ever. And you will never need these, just ever. Ever. If you are playing a game about fireworks, stop playing Pathfinder 2. Go play Fate or Powered by the Apocalypse. Stop. Just stop. I get it. You're obsessed with D20. Leave it. You have grown beyond it. Leave the rest of us behind so that we can muddle around in 5-foot squares and talk about attacks of opportunity. You have transcended us, okay? You are on another plane of existence. You are now passed beyond the boneyard to the lands beyond, okay? Eru Iluvatar salutes you on your way out into the universe. Stop playing Pathfinder 2. Don't play fireworks in Pathfinder 2. No. Sorry. I mean, I'm serious. We don't need this. And it just doesn't need to be there. Okay. Correct. Exactly, Don Pokey. You are just on another level, okay? You need to go play with Mercer and whatever the hell the guy's name is that does Dimension 20, and you just need to be, +1 for the Iluvatar reference. Awesome. This is a feat that could have and should have been a small segment on the firework mechanic for normal players. Brennan Lee Mulligan, that is the man. Thank you, Frostjack. I don't even think it deserves a C in flavor. It's only consistent as it gives you the ability to shoot fireworks and a bunch of different types of fireworks. Yeah, but using the existence of this archetype implies, now you may have a problem with this, but that is the way Pathfinder 2 works. You cannot launch fireworks any other way. So if you want to launch fireworks, you need this archetype. So that's the way it goes. Sorry. I want to hit really hard with my weapon. Do you have the power attack feat? I do not have the power attack feat. Then I'm sorry, you cannot hit really hard with your weapon. That's the way, that is the game. That is, if I was playing Monopoly and I said, I want to charge you rent for landing on that space. And you say, do you own that space? And I say, well, no, I do not. And they said, well, then you do not get to collect my money. That's just the way the game works. Well, I don't like that. Well, that's fine, but then we're not playing Monopoly. Okay. I believe I read, correct. Exactly. Look, you know what I want to respect? I want to respect that somebody got paid to write that. Like when you're writing that archetype, you basically go, this is like substitute teacher day, because you're doing the firework archetype. No one's going to call you out on writing a bad firework archetype. Like, there's nobody that cares about that. Look, we didn't even care. We just gave it a C. You're just like, whatever. This could be the best archetype in the game. It could be the worst archetype in the game. It won't matter. No one will care. Flexible spellcaster. And I'm being told this is going to be a hard one to rate. It's from Secrets of Magic, a book that I, generally speaking, do not like. You've learned how to cast... Isn't this one that turns you into like a 5th edition caster? Blending the best elements of spontaneous and prepared casting at the cost of fewer spells per day. What is everyone's thoughts on Vancian casting in general? Jess has given us the official insight. Is it a class archetype? It is a class archetype. It gets postponed to the end. My general thoughts are, before even we get into it, fewer spells per day. Lame. I agree with you, Luke. That being said, going back to... So thank you, Jess, for pointing that out. Going back to what Frostjack was saying, here are my thoughts on Vancian spellcasting. And so everybody is aware, Vancian spellcasting refers to Jack Vance, author of the Dying Earth novels, a series of Weird Earth post-apocalyptic science fantasy novels written during the 50s and into the 60s. Gary Gygax was a big fan of it. And in these novels, wizards literally memorized very strange, extremely complicated formulas, and it sort of burned into their brain. And it kind of was laying there as latent energy. And later on, when they finished the last few words of a very, very long and very, very complicated spell, the energy from their brain would be released like a torrent. And as that energy flowed out of their brain, it would create some sort of magical effect. But of course, it had left their brain, and they could no longer cast spells. That is stupid. Now, that being said, JG is killing it tonight. Because they are exactly right. There was a time, there is a component of Vancian casting which I really, really like. Hey, look at the Cybersmith being just web connection bad. Catch the VOD later. Good night. Cybersmith, thank you for another super chat. Thanks for being a part of the stream tonight. We'll see you on the Discord, buddy. Thank you again. So, once upon a time, I like resources, and I like games to have resources and actions and board spaces, and I like manipulating those three things. That's what makes, for me, a fun game, whether that game is Root or Oath, Caverna, Agricola, Axis and Allies, Catan, right? There are actions I can take in Catan. There are resources that I have to manage in Catan to help me take those actions, or some of those actions will give me resources, some of those resources will give me actions, and they're all gathered from and influence the game board space, ultimately culminating in the most important resource, victory points, which is what determines how I win the game. I like that. And there is a world in which Vancian spellcasting is just a very cool form of strategic resources. When the game was about, okay, we need treasure, we need gold to level, because gold is going to give us experience points. So our objective is to get as much gold as possible before we return back to town. But the monsters are going to kill us. We don't really have any hit points, and we die at 0. So fighting is scary. Monsters are scary. The whole game is scary. Well, then we need to really make sure that we are managing our resources. Well, we have these very powerful effects, spells, that allow us to literally reshape reality. And in the first edition D&D, a spell like Sleep or Color Spray could literally completely shut down an entire encounter. Oh my God, no, we were, picking over treasure and loot, and then 12 goblins came swarming in, and the wizard cast one sleep spell, and they were all slept. And they were all taken out. Huge power. And so that idea, the torches are running out, your rations, your water is running out. Will you have enough hit points to make it back home? Your spells are ever dwindling. This felt very thematically appropriate for that style of game. Fast forward 48 years later, we don't play those kind of games anymore. I do sometimes, but I can be honest tell you that a lot of these game systems don't do that style of play very well either, because we've just updated and changed so many other forms and mechanics around it, and yet we still have this vestigial element of Vancian casting. Its time has come and passed, and it needs to be put down. So that is my opinion on Vancian casting. I don't know about Magic in Genesis. I'm trying to remember what Magic was like in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition, which I know was like the initial version of Genesis. But I don't actually remember how Magic worked in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3E. Interesting. Okay. So we're going to do Flexible Spellcaster another time. So that brings us to our last archetype of the evening as we come up on 9 o'clock. Perfect timing. We've got the Folklorist, and this is from, I don't know, is this from Strength of Thousands, maybe? Yep. Folklorists are welcome across the Mwangi expanse for their entertaining stories they tell and the counsel that they impart. However, those who take the art of storytelling to the next level can produce magical effects based on their understanding of those stories. And sure enough, it is from the Mwangi, or I'm sorry, from the what's it called? Strength of Thousands. There we go. We got the Folklorist. Okay. So, you have to be trained in performance, level 2. You can spin a tale once every 10 minutes. You tell a story designating one of your allies, but not yourself, as the hero of the story, and one enemy as the villain. Both must be within 60 feet. The hero gains a +1 status bonus to attack rolls and saving throws against the villain until the start of your next turn. So it's kind of a very weak Inspire Courage, like extremely weak Inspire Courage. If you spin a tale on your next turn, the story continues for another round for a maximum of 10 rounds, and then we get some flavor. While the story continues, minor crude illusions spring into being in your space. These have no mechanical effect other than to illustrate your tale. So we're fighting, and I'm also telling a story, and you can tell a story, Jess. I just can't create illusory things that create the thing and also give my ally a +1 status bonus. That's a very weak ability. There's no doubt about that. I mean, this is, when you compare this to Bless or Heroism or Inspire Courage, it's pretty brutal. So if you take that, though, you get Folktales lore. You get Folktales lore, a special lore that can only be used to recall knowledge, but on any topic. And if you fail a check, you get the benefit of the dubious knowledge skill feat. I'd argue whether or not that is a benefit or not. If you are legendary in performance, your Folklorist Tales becomes expert, but you cannot increase it in any other way. That alone is a little tricky. Recall knowledge DCs go up just like everything else, especially since they're tied to the DCs of the monsters. So this is kind of a bardic lore clone, but it's okay. Narrative conduit. You act as a conduit for your companions, just as the stories are this is so. The writing here is just so. I don't even know how to describe it. It's so melodramatic, This is very much, it's about the friend. It's about the friends we made along the way, right? Like that's this. You act as a conduit for your companions, just as a story is a conduit between the teller and the listener. When you spin a tale and the hero of your tale casts a spell against the villain, you warp the world, allowing the hero to calculate range and cover to the villain from your space instead of their own. Okay. Again, there are instances where that could be useful, and at least it doesn't take an action. I'll give it a little bit of a nod, but not too much. GM Scott, does that range include difficult terrain? Only if you're Bob. The RPG is the friends we made along the way. Wait, that checks out. Yeah, it kind of does. Rule of 3. Uh-oh. This just shot to the S tier. Rule of 3. That's one of my go-to rules. It's a reaction. Trigger. The villain of the tail you've spun makes an attack roll with a given weapon or unarmed attack, uses a particular special ability, such as a breath weapon, or casts a spell against the hero, and they've used that same attack, special abilities, or a spell against the hero on a previous turn. So they have to cast a spell against you, and then the next turn they have to cast the exact same spell against you. Or they have to use a breath weapon against you, and then the next turn they have to use the exact same breath weapon against you. That doesn't seem like that might happen a lot, but to be clear, them attacking you with a weapon and then them attacking you with that same weapon, that seems more likely. Heroes learn from their previous failures and often succeed on their third attempt. You narrate a tale of the hero's success, granting them a +2 circumstance bonus to their AC. Or saving throw against the effect. If the villain has used the same effect the heroes on the last 2 turns, and you use rule of 3 last turn as well, the bonus is +4. Well, that could be very powerful. I mean, there's definitely no doubt that is very powerful. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I had something back there. I mean, a reaction to give somebody a +2 bonus to their AC or +4 bonus to their AC. I mean, it works against attacks. This is okay. It's pretty good. Communal tale. Now, keep in mind, so far, this character's about telling stories, right? Well, this one gives us a +1 bonus to attack. This gives us the cool Folklorist lore. This one lets us target people with spells from our space. This one gives a reaction to increase armor class. You see what I'm saying here? There's almost nothing in here that is really tied to being a folklorist. This is really striking me as more of a mechanics-based class than a flavor one. Communal tale. Stories are an experience meant to be shared as a group. When you spin a tale, you can designate up to 6 non-minion allies, get screwed, animal companions, as the heroes of your story. Each hero, once during the tale, can continue the story in your stead by spending an action to spin the tale. If they do, the story continues for another round as if you had spun the tale at the start of your turn. This could allow the story to continue for up to 6 additional rounds if all possible allies spin the tale, though you can continue to spin the tale on your own as normal. Hey, why should you be the one who has to sacrifice their action every turn? Let your party members do it as well. All right. It's our last one of the night, people. I'm leaning towards mechanics. None of this. You get the 1 feat, which gives you the special lore that feels kind of thematic to a folklorist, right? But so I'm leaning towards mechanics. So that is my thought on it. I don't think it's particularly strong, but let's see what you all think. Give you all a chance to let me know. So you've got 4 options here. You can go B mechanics, C mechanics, D mechanics, or you can vote and feel like it's flavor. Some of this archetype, I don't really understand why they even exist. Well, Roman, that makes 2 of us. You know, we saw this with the spells. You know, we have someone in the chat tonight who apparently has written for Paizo. Did a great job. We really liked the dandy. It was a great archetype. But you know, some of these archetypes just don't seem to deliver, in my opinion, enough bang for the buck. You know, you're really just not getting a lot of oomph. And the flavor is kind of left on the drawing board as well. In theory, this Folklorist should be something that either really helps you fill in the gap of being this storytelling, you know, person in your campaign mechanically, but it doesn't really feel to do this. It feels like it's trying to be a wannabe bard, and if that's the case, it's failing badly. So yeah, I'm leaning towards C and D myself. I'm gonna wait to see what the chat thinks. I'll give it a few more minutes as we finish up. Remember to like and subscribe, people. You know, we don't get a lot of views here on Knights of Last Call. Watching, again, we mentioned this at the beginning. Nonat, you know, has talked about how he's going to be stepping back from Pathfinder 2 a little bit. He's going to be doing more video games, focusing on computer role-playing games, which is cool. He likes those. It's really what his passion is. He's said that many times, and that's awesome for him. But it was so funny hearing him say, he's like, you know, my views are so down this year, and a lot of my top videos are from videos I made last year that are just still getting views this year. And he's like, you know, I've only gotten 2 videos that have gotten more than 8,000 views. Our average views is at 6,000, and it just shows you a sense of perspective. You know, like we are like pumped if we get more than 2,000 views. So it's so funny. You know, it's like, you know, we get it. We are. I'm not talking. We're not we're not an influencer. We're not a commentator. You know, we're not Mr. Beast. We're talking about role-playing games. So you're talking about a niche market. And then we're talking about Pathfinder 2 a lot. Now, obviously on this channel, we talk about other role-playing games, but those are even more niche than Pathfinder 2. So it's kind of crazy to think that you're going to be able to like grow this huge audience in what is essentially a super, super small market. All right, I'm going to wrap the poll here. We've got 0% at B, 38% at C, but the D's have it, with 44% of you saying it is a D mechanics, and we are going to go to there. So that's where our thing is going to, what we're going to do for our archetypes tonight. So we made it through the F's, which is great. We're going into the G's. The good news is it does seem like once we get into the later part of the alphabet, there are a lot less of, some of these. There were a lot of A's and B's and C's. There were like a ton of them. So, we're only into the G's, but we're like a third of the way through. So, like I said, I think we're going to probably doing maybe like 6 or 7 of these to get through them all. So, it's not nothing, but it's definitely going to be, a long, there's going to be a reasonable number of options here. So look at that, Frostjack barely hanging on as the hype boss. Well, we did not meet our tip goal tonight, but that's okay. We can't always get it. But again, one thing I've been saying, going over and over and over again. I get it. Money's tight. A lot of my friends are struggling. And a lot of people are, counting their pennies because times are tough. I was today or yesterday, I went to the grocery store. Okay, I went to the grocery store. I filled up my gas tank. By the way, I don't have kids. I went to the grocery store. I filled up my gas tank. I bought a couple pairs of jeans and maybe a sweater. It was like $430. It's just insane right now. Everything is so expensive. Just incredible how expensive everything is right now. Just, so again, anybody who even gives us $3, if you're a member of the Patreon, just incredibly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for you to just continue to open your wallets and continue to support us. It's just, it's just nuts. Let's see. I'm just going to read some of this chat here. Apparently I was doing the 90s movie trailer guy voice. In a time, in a place, unlike any other, comes a game beyond your wildest imagination. Join us as Paizo Publishing presents Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Is that the 90s? Is that the 90s guy's voice? That was me trying to do the 90s movie guy. Let's see. Don Pokey called the mechanics D. That's very good. Yeah, Bard can do everything. This can do better. Fantastic. Jess says our channel is underrated. Thank you. Our channel's underrated. I think our channel, it's not that we're underrated. It's that our approach to role-playing games is very different than the way that a lot of people approach role-playing games and the way that they approach the hobby. I'm extremely inclusionary. I've played a ton of role-playing games. I go to conventions. I play many, many different types of role-playing games. But I am a critic. I mean, I think that this is something that, just like I think movie critics are valid. I think that it's fine to, but someone will say, but I liked it. Yeah, you can like a bad movie. That doesn't make it a good movie. And so I feel the same way about role-playing games. And I understand that mentality is not necessarily a very popular one these days. So for sure. You just also said our roundtable videos we used to do were really good. Yeah, those were called our nightlives. And that's one of the big things that we are hoping to bring back with the completion of our studio build and get everybody back into, one location in person. And we think that's going to be so fun. We really want to run it like a talk radio show live with our group, all together in the same room on our mics and literally taking people's calls and discussing things and, kind of interacting with them. I love interacting. It's one of the reasons I love to chat. And this is just another way to do that. And I think that'll be really, really fun. Everything besides D&D is niche. D&D itself is niche because even if you're a D&D creator, there's 15 D&D creators that are really doing it. And when I say doing it, I mean this is a full-time, respectable job with an income that can really support, a lifestyle. That's Ginny D, that's XP to level 3, that's the Dungeon Dudes, that's Taking 20, that's, maybe Dungeon Craft, Professor Dungeon Master. There's really not that many. I mean, it really drops off very, very quickly. So, I love it. Yeah. It's an odd place to be, definitely. It's a tiny niche within the most popular niche. Exactly. We gifted 10,000 Pathfinder 2e core rulebooks. Actually, we're coming up on end of the year here, and I'm going to be doing our big Patreon Hero Point giveaways. I don't know how much money we're going to be spending. I don't know. I think we're going to be giving away at least $1,000 in prizes to our patrons for their contributions to our community this year. In many ways, I'm basically just kind of taking the money that I made in profit, and I'm just giving it back to the patrons. And on top of that, separately, we're also holding a raffle. And in my hobby, in my spare time, I'm a woodworker, a furniture maker, and I make high quality, heirloom quality gaming tables. Out of hardwood, walnut, maple, mahogany, you name it. Beautiful pieces, made of with real wood joinery, heirloom quality. And we are going to be giving one of those away to someone in our Patreon. So that's going to be pretty cool. And if they are in the continental U.S., because shipping would be insane So we're going to build it, and then I'm going to rent a truck, and I'm going to take it to the person's house, hand deliver it, and then hopefully, if they're up for it, we're going to play some games. I think it'll be fun. So I'm really looking forward to those giveaways. Just awesome. Just part of the amazing part of this community. I just love giving back to it. People are talking about the medic archetype. Yeah, medic archetype is going to be an A, if not an S, for sure. But we'll get to there when we get to the M. Final push studio build live stream soon. KC, the problem that we have right now, next week is Thanksgiving. Bob and Aaron, both family man. We are gonna, they're gonna be very busy that whole week. And on top of that, KC, we've got to wrap up Northern Reaches. Northern Reaches is wrapping up this week, next week. Next weekend's the last weekend. We have to run our final confrontation versus Triune, the great evil that is, sort of become the big bad of Northern Reaches. So we got to wrap that up, and we are also pushing. We got to get, we want to get out another. We want to get another Battle Cry. That's our magazine, our little e-zine that we publish. We've published two issues so far, and we wanted to get a third out before the end of the year with possibly at least some sort of bonus PDF in December as well. So, we got some other things to do, but yeah, I do want to get the studio built. So, originally we hoped to get it done in August, September timeframe. Now it's more like if we can get it done this year, I think we're going to be in really good shape. But we've made a lot of progress. Now that we've got so much of the construction done, really it's just now decorating, painting, some of that fine detail stuff, which isn't to say that stuff can't take time, but there's at least a light now at the end of the tunnel. So, Pat, as an aside, mad props to you for hiking the Appalachian Trail, as you mentioned in a previous broadcast. What archetype would that be? Is there a bum? Is there a professional hobo archetype? Because that is definitely what you are when you are hiking the AT. Hey, Joe. I joined the Patreon, but here's to another great video. Keep the archetypes coming. Joe, thank you so much for your patronage. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very, very generous of you. Appreciate the support. Happy to have you aboard. Hope you find the community a worthwhile and worthy endeavor. I just tell everybody, you get out of it what you put into it. Don't be afraid to engage. I know our community, or I should say, I know our hobby can attract a lot of people who aren't necessarily the most socially extroverted people, who sometimes have anxiety issues. But, our community is really, really, really supportive. But we also aren't going to, blow smoke up your ass, and we're going to make sure that, we're going to make sure that you're challenged a little bit. So I think it really is the best of both worlds, in that respect. If I somehow win, I'll drive down from Toronto. And all right, listen, Casey, if you want to come to us, I mean, I will acknowledge that. What? You can't ship a table to Australia. The good news is if somebody who is not from the continental U.S. wins, we are going to give them some sort of cash equivalent prize. It won't be as nice as getting a table, but it's not like you're disqualified. I can't make you a table. I'm sorry, because again, shipping a table to Australia would be, I don't even know how much. You know what? I'll say this. I don't know what it would cost. We'd have to think about it. But if somebody who wasn't from the continental U.S., wanted to pay the shipping cost, I would consider it. And to be clear, I mean, the tables that I make, probably have if you were to buy it from like a Wormwood, would have a value of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 US. So these aren't, we're not messing around here. I mean, these are real pieces of furniture, and I've sold them for that much money here. So it might be $1,000 or something crazy to ship it to you. But you might be willing to pay that if that means you get the table. But I won't begrudge somebody if they don't want to pay that. So thanks again, Joe, for that super chat. Thank you again for your patronage. Thanks, Cybersmith, for all the super chats throughout the course of the evening. Frostjack, Boothby, Damien, Lazarus, Jason B, all giving tips. Derek Torres and Greg C for renewing their YouTube membership. Love to see it. I want to say thank you to you for joining us. We'll be back next week. We've got Quest for the Frozen Flame. We're going to be back, finally. Bob doesn't have a meeting. Tim's kids aren't going to hopefully be sick. So as long as a meteor doesn't crash down on us, we're going to return to the adventures of the Burning Mammoths versus the Broken Tusks. We're going to see how the Broken Tusk scouts do. They have completed the quest to recover or to explore Red Cat Cave. They now know some of the hidden secrets of their people, and they're now ready to move beyond the Gornok Plain and move east towards Lost Mammoth Valley. Ooh. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. And, of course, next Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm not a big Thanksgiving guy. So, I don't know. I might be live. We might not do the archetypes just because I don't want people to miss it if you want to be here. So we might just do a hangout, kick it stream, So, all right, everybody. Thank you again for your wonderful support. Bob does have flurry of meeting. You'd think he'd be better at it because he's got the flurry of meetings, but sometimes that map penalty gets you that multiple meeting penalty. MIP will get you killed, GM Scott. So anyways, thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you for kicking it. Remember to like, subscribe. We'll see you on the Discord. We'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call.